Hi everyone, Dr. Suneel Dhand, internal medicine physician. Welcome to another video. I want to talk in this video about the upcoming election. Only a few days away. I'm sure many of you watching can't wait for the election to be all over. But in terms of the election and mental health, I meet many people who are completely overwhelmed with election issues to the point where it is affecting their mental health. That's never a good thing to get those cortisol and adrenaline levels up. Of course, there are some very important issues out there, but should they be affecting people's mental health on a mass scale? And in terms of where I am, well, this is my third time voting as a proud naturalized US citizen, and of course I'm human. I have my own political views, and I try not to be too open in my videos, but I'm sure many of you who watch me regularly can guess my own broad political viewpoints and the kind of politicians that I would like or dislike. My biggest issue as it pertains to being a doctor and the health issues that I'm concerned about in society, again, many of you already know this, the metabolic health catastrophe that is affecting adults and children, the crisis of obesity, of chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes, which is going through the roof. I want to see a politician and political party that will seriously address this. I would like to see a political party that wants to clamp down on the ridiculous amount of influence that fraudulent pharmaceutical companies have. I would also ideally like to see politicians that want to clamp down on corrupted physician societies that are doing so much damage right now. They have completely thrown out of the window ethical medicine and the original principles of Hippocrates. And of course, over the last few years, I could never vote for any politician or political party that was pro-COVID vaccine mandate. Those coercive, unethical, disgraceful COVID vaccine mandates, which were implemented in 2021. But I would be lying to you if I didn't share with you my thought that in most Western countries, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. There are very few politicians out there that are above the level that most politicians are at. If we look at the USA, for instance, in terms of pharmaceutical money, both political parties over the last few years, Democrat and Republican, have accepted vast sums of money from pharmaceutical companies in the billions, and I believe the official statistic is 2/3 of Congress has taken this money. So go figure. So coming back again to mental health and how worked up people are, being told that this is the most important election of all time, working themselves up into a tizzy. Seriously, has there ever been an election where you haven't been told it's the most important election? And I devised a list of all the times throughout history that people were not worked up about politics and seriously concerned that the other side might take charge. Take a look at this list. You got that? There has, of course, never been a time where there has never been another tribe to fight. That is simply who we are, and it is important to have that perspective. And that is why I am a huge fan of Stoicism, as many of you know. Now, there is a lot of confusion over what Stoicism is. It's not a religion. It's an ancient Greco-Roman philosophy that is compatible with any religion or way of life. And it teaches us that humans will always be humans. We can't change human nature or the nature of people around us. All we can do is try to act in the most rational way possible and realize the reality of the world. And coming back to the reality of the world and humans for a moment, it is in our chimpanzee DNA, it is in our animal DNA to always want to fight with another tribe. I mean, let's think about the history of the United States. In 1776, the colonies went all in to get independence from Great Britain. They got their hard-fought independence. And then what happened a few decades later? Well, they were fighting with each other in a civil war. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people perished in a civil war between people who were united a few decades earlier. And this is the whole nature of human beings. I can guarantee you that if even the most hardcore Democrat or Republican got their wish right now to split the country in two, one half was for Democrats, the other was for Republicans, and we had two new countries. Do you think those two countries would be completely peaceful? Of course they wouldn't. Within a short amount of time, they would fracture off, you would get different factions developing, and they would start fighting with each other, because that's what humans are built to do. And every time somebody gets extremely worked up about politics, now again, I'm not saying you shouldn't be fired up about political issues. There are some important issues today. But once you fall into the trap, particularly in a country like the United States, which is peaceful and quite quote unquote advanced, and you think if the other side wins, it's going to be the end of the world, well, you've really fallen into the trap of extreme tribalism, because it's not going to be the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. And this is the genius of the United States, and it's something I appreciate as a naturalized citizen. And I don't think enough people who were born in America appreciate the absolute wisdom and genius of the founding fathers, because they devised a system. They created the US Constitution, the greatest document produced by mankind, in my opinion, which ensures that it is very difficult for one political party to gain extreme power. There are a lot of checks and balances, and that is how it was designed. Because no matter your politics or your viewpoint, if any one political party gains extreme power and they have complete control, then corruption soon follows and things fall apart. That is the way things work. So you always want to have an opposition voice, no matter how crazy you might think that opposition voice is, no matter what your viewpoint. This is the great yin and yang of politics and the yin and yang of life. You need counterbalances at all times. So in a country like the United States or many other quote-unquote advanced Western countries like the UK, even if the wrong political party gets in, it's not going to be the end of the world. Maybe things will be rough for a little bit, but the world will not end and the country will not end. I really do love this country. I'm a proud immigrant and I want to support the country in every way I can. In fact, I'll tell you a recent story. Behind me here on the shelf is something I know many of you are already familiar with. I recently launched a natural organic immune support anti-inflammation supplement containing mainly turmeric and ginger. I know many of you have already ordered it. Thank you for that. We've got some great reviews so far. Those of you who haven't, feel free to check it out in the link down below. But when this was being formulated, it took months. We were going back and forth, and a lot of people around me were saying, you should do this overseas, get an overseas manufacturer, source it, bottle it overseas, and then sell it in the USA. And from a pure economic standpoint, that would have made the most sense. It would have been a lot cheaper to do that. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to support the USA. We went with a US-based manufacturer, which is also veteran-owned, and I'm very proud of that. I want to support this country in every way possible. I'm a proud immigrant. So am I saying that everything is perfect? Of course not. There's always work to do. This country can do much better, as any country can. But we must have a sense of perspective and gratitude, because the truth is that most of our historical ancestors would switch places with us in a heartbeat. Up until a few decades ago, there were no comforts like warmth, sanitation. People had to deal with plagues, with world wars. Life expectancy was only in the 30s or 40s. We are not living in the darkest times. We have a lot to be grateful for, and we must have that sense of perspective. Of course, we're going to be fired up about certain issues, but let's keep a sense of perspective and don't get sucked into that vortex of politics, thinking that the other side is the enemy and all is lost if your side doesn't win the election. Not good for mental health to think that way. And also, if I can be quite frank and give you some honest doctor advice, there are a lot of sick people out there, people with excess body fat, being overweight, obese. I'm not saying this to shame people, but if you are more concerned about the election result than you are your significant issues with insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, other inflammation, and addressing those issues, then may I suggest that you rethink where you are in life and addressing those lifestyle issues that are really affecting you much more and will affect you much more than the election result. Again, honest doctor advice to you. So let me leave you now with this one thought and reflection on what America is. Truly unique. Never been a country like the United States. Right now, running for the office of president and vice president, we have 4 candidates. And out of them, 2 are in mixed race relationships, mixed marriages. And a few decades ago, that may have raised a few eyebrows. People would have talked about it. Indeed, right now, in many countries across the world, that would be an issue. And this is a subject which is also close to my heart. It shows how far the world has come and how America has always been about, since the very beginning, people coming from different parts of the world and living together, getting along together. Because at the end of the day, that is the real thing that makes America great. It's not a political party, it's not a politician. It is the fine, upstanding citizens of this country since the very beginning, the backbone of this country. Citizens who are brave, who are hardworking, who believe in freedom, who want to do the right thing for themselves and their family. That is truly what makes America great.